have a good discussion. Thank you, Ira. So it'll be good if you can come on video. It's a Sunday afternoon. Some of us are freezing. Some of us are showing off. We'll let that pass this time.
Hi, Garima. Hi, Kaveri. Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry,
Hi,
sorry.
Sapna.
I'm just
So
little
going
out.
back.
So I just plugged in my earphones. So
Sure,
I'll be
Sapna.
just
Thank you
part
so
of
much
it.
for joining. Appreciate
We're
that.
ready to begin. Please go ahead.
So let's starting. We are a quick recap reading How Women Rise. In case you haven't picked up the book, do pick it up. The book comprises of 3 parts. Part 1 talks about generally what women go through. Part 2 is where we talk about 12 habits which are impacting us, some of us. And then we realized most of us are impacted by most of the habits that Sally and Marshall have talked about here. And part 3 is going to be what do we want to do about each of them. We are towards the tail end of the book, and we are going to be completing this book next Sunday. One of the activities that we wanted to do before we get the reading going is to identify if we have some known habits which we want to work on together. We will circulate a very simple form to all of you so that you can put down the 3 habits. Let's not take more than 3. We don't want to boil the ocean. We don't want to overburden ourselves. Even if there is one habit that you want to let go of, let's plan it. And please tell us how we can help as a community, who in the group can help you get over that activity so that we can fix it for, ever. So that's what it is. Did we identify any activities? That was one of the things that we wanted to kind of quickly capture. I know I have 2, which I mentioned on the group as well. Who else has identified anything? If not, then you can still take time to identify those. But if you have, please do share.
I have identified, and I've identified 3 habits that I saw for myself. The first one, the first habit actually, which talks about reluctance to claim achievements, and that's so such a key thing. I think there's so much conditioning in using the we versus the I that I have to really make myself be conscious about that. Okay, I did this, and this is something I must call out. So this is definitely one. The other one that I noticed gets attached to is minimizing, using a sorry more often. So this is definitely something I saw: minimizing, feeling small, shying away from holding space, calling it out. So this was the second. And the third thing, which also I noticed, was the 11th habit, which talks about ruminating, going back into the past. Oh, what did I say? What did I do? I think I could have done better. That really takes so much of my headspace. And I'm so glad that with this objectivity of the book, these habits, we're so able to distinctly see it. I think that's so wonderful. So yeah, this is something which I'm taking on.
Thanks, Ira, for sharing this. And please do let us know, of course, how and where we can help. Just to give some more idea to some of the new joiners, there are 12 very crisply defined habits that Sally and Marshall talk about. And like Hira, I have identified 2 for myself. One is not saying yes to please. Sometimes in a corporate culture, naturally, because you feel so minimized or threatened that if I don't do this, how will somebody else perceive my contribution? Will the person come back to me or give me more work? So I have often ended up saying yes because I just wanted to not get into the bad side of, the bosses. I think I'm going to reduce that because invariably I take up so much on myself that I'm not able to focus on the core job. The second, Hira, you and me share is ruminating, not wasting time to think over the past. I think one of the things I learned was reflecting on the past is different, but just getting into the loop of overthinking, overanalyzing, absolutely doing complete, what do you call it, 12th में क्या करते थे हम लोग वो biology वालों को पता होगा, right? Dissecting every thread, every problem, right? I think it gets me into a loop. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel angry. And I end up not appreciating how far I have come. And this has happened with me, and it's very personal. I'm saying this out. I don't appreciate how far I have come, you know. So I want to do that. I want to appreciate where I am, but take the lessons. So I don't want to ruminate. I want to think. I want to move forward with a plan. Those are the two habits that I want to work on. And I'm going to build some conscious statements to get going on that. Those are the two things. And of course, I'm going to put it up on the action log also once that is shared. Who else would like to share anything that they would want to work on? And if you don't have a habit, don't worry. You can hear some of us and you can identify with, you know, what impacts you most and pick that up.
So I would like to share what I have done for myself is like while we started with the book, I created a like to-do list and what not to do, because the book teaches you to like few things. It has given few tips and they are in front of me right now where I work. So there are to-do list also, because there are times like what not to do is very obvious. What to do will require you to put like more effort. So that is what I have done for myself. So I have around like list of 10 habits to do, but then 5 habits not to do. So I hope that helps for others.
That's a very good idea. In fact, she does talk about so that, you know, what we shouldn't do. So that's great.
But I think 10 and 5 is a lot, Vijeta. Just take it like, take a couple of 10, maximum 3, and implement it. Keep the others in reserve for later.
Yeah, so what I have done, it's in
one
front of me, and since I work from home, whenever I'm writing an email or I'm like in between a meeting, because it is just in front of me, I know what I'm doing, and like sometimes I say something and rephrase it. In my head, I say something, rephrase it, and then tell to the audience. Yeah.
I think that's a very good idea to just put it up. It's like a vision board, right? You can put it up that, you know, these are the phrases I don't have to say. And these are the phrases I would want to say. It's like reaffirming your own self. Yes, Amrita.
Sorry, I didn't see the time, so I logged in late. Out of the 12 habits, the first is expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward my recognition, my contributions. So that is one habit I'd like to change. I seek validation. I have come a long way, but I still somewhere like seek validation from people close to me, which I have to stop. I'm working on it. And also too much, like giving out too much of information, speaking too much at times, you know. So that is one thing that's an area of improvement I'm working on.
Oh, great. Thanks, Amrita. Yes, Raji.
Hey, Happy New Year to all. I'm happy I finally got into the session off and on. I've been making a lot of efforts to get into book sessions. And this is one book, more or less, I followed with the book club, though I didn't attend all the sessions. So kind of, I think it was on right time because I was analysis. I was doing it in a very random way. And this book really helped me to do analysis in a better structured way. And there were many things, in every habit, there were few things I was feeling, okay, maybe this is something I'm doing without my knowledge kind of a thing, right? But what really, one of the things, definitely my trap is my perfection trap, the perfection kaboot. I've realized it quite some time back. It's not a new thing. I've been working a lot on trying to overcome that. And one other thing, because of this perfection kaboot, the problem is delegation also somewhere goes for a toss, because we expect exactly the same quality of work from everybody. And when they don't do it, you're not happy and you feel you better do it rather than giving it to somebody, right? So at the end of it, you will be stuck where you are and you can't move on, right? That realization has happened. And when I read through that perfection ka thing, I realized, oh, exactly, this is what I've been doing many times without knowledge, and I've started working towards that. So there is still a lot of scope for me to improve on this one. So I will still take it up to make it better. This booth has to get out of me completely for me to become better. I realize that one. Yeah. And the other one is, somewhere the disease to please was coming up a little bit, but then that I realized that somewhere, I do expect others to notice what I'm doing and, acknowledge, not exactly, appreciate or anything. Somewhere that acknowledgement part, somewhere I keep looking at it. If the others don't notice, somewhere I used to feel that my high spirits used to go somewhere down. So that also kind of realization had happened. But see, many of these things pointers realization about had happened. But when I read it, I really got that clarity. Oh, this is exactly what probably I was going wrong. So the second one is, that expecting unnecessary expectations that others should, recognize what you're doing and reward or recognize and talk about it or tell about it. That is something definitely I want to get over. And the last one is the last one, exactly the radar part of it. Whenever I'm doing something, exactly that part. Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
When I'm talking, when I'm in the meeting, also somewhere, not to the extent described in the book, I keep noticing what the audience are doing, and somewhere the distraction does happen. And, again, there also somewhere I feel that whatever you're doing, that acknowledgement part, even when I'm speaking something, probably I was expecting some acknowledgement somewhere. And when I'm not getting that kind of a response, probably that was distracting me to an extent. So that is something definitely a place where I need to act upon. And to set many things, probably I have a beautiful foundation. My team is getting revamped, so I'm restarting my team. I'm hiring everybody and getting restart. So I thought, even as a manager, I have a beautiful place now to pick up some of these habits and not make the same mistakes, because at least some of the people who are going to report to me are going to be new. So they don't know the older version of Raji. So they are going to see only the new version of Raji. And that hopefully will help me to build a better team going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Raji. All the best. And I think it's a great start. New year, new team. So let's go off the past. That's all.
Exactly.
I would just like to say, congratulations. It's like building a new me when you're choosing these new habits and really taking it on afresh for yourself. So so best of luck on this new journey.
Thank you. And just to add on, I got quite influenced by this book, and I'm planning to give to 5 people this book whom I know they're really actually, they need it. If I tell, they may feel that it's going to be advising them, but I know no other gift can help them in the current situation, what they're going through. So to 5 people, I'm going to buy and give them. Hopefully that will make their life also better.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Raji. That's a wonderful thought, because I think when we were reading it, all of us said the same thing, that had I got this book 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have been better off. So I think you're going to be, mentoring a lot of young women. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. And I'm glad we could make that impact. Anybody else?
Ranjani had put her hand up. Ranjani Karyappa. Can't see her now.
I saw her hand. Rajni, are you still there? Okay, I will just read Kaveri's habits. She wants to not feel guilty about taking the space and attention. You shouldn't. We shouldn't. We feel that, we are being too much, but we shouldn't. And the second she's talking about is work on not feeling obliged to please. And third, I think all of us suffer from this, delegate and not micromanage. So we'll help you there, Kaveri, together. Shelda, yes, please.
Hi everyone. Hi Garima. Thank you so much. I'll quickly tell what I want to work on. One is a perfection trap. Just like how Raji said, it's too much to expect from others that they should do what the way I am doing. So that is one thing in life, as well as in professional, as well as in personal life. And the second is ruminating. Though I am tried and started doing that, but the more I am aware about it, the more challenging it is. But I think that is something I'm really going to take a lot of work to, like writing down and telling myself a lot of practice to do that. And third one is minimum. That's a long list, but the first priority for these 3, because these 3 are like really bugging me a lot. The third is minimizing. I usually don't take credit for my work. I always say that I always start a sentence with we. Sometimes, most of the time, it is I kind of let go of what I have done or what was my contribution in that, thinking that we need to be polite. That entire that chapter is completely true. So I will take what is my share. I will definitely kind of try and see how I can articulate that in a very professional manner. So these are the three. I can use a bit of help from the community. If anybody is interested to like a one-on-one or a small group to follow up on whether we are doing this or are we whatever we are doing is working, would be really grateful. But I don't know how we can take that forward. But thank you.
That sounds good. Thank you so much, Shalja. If anybody would want to share, we'll take one more and then we'll catch up on the reading. Suma, thanks for sharing.
Just one incident,
Yes,
one, I mean, habits I haven't gone through yet, but one incident I would like to share, which just happened yesterday, which I could relate. It worked out so well for me because of reading this book. I was paying the TDS, usually I do for the thing. And by mistake, I paid 2,600 instead of 26,000. And I never realized it. I don't know, sometimes you're out of zone or whatever. Usually it doesn't happen. But I very well know that earlier when it used to happen, it used to haunt me. How could I make that mistake? I used to keep on thinking what impact I'm going to, put on my employees, what nonsense. How can anybody come and tell me, why did I make this? It was killing me. But yesterday, I never realized I did the mistake in that. So when the bank was being reconciled, so that office boy, he came and told me, he put the file there, ma'am, ye kya kar diya aapne? And I said, what happened? Very coolly. He said, ma'am, 26,000 tha, aapne 2,600 kar diya. And I was completely blank. And he said, okay, fine, no problem. I'll do it. दिखाओ क्या है? कोई नहीं है. अगर नहीं भी होगा तो late fine लग जाएगा ना. Fine हो जाता है कभी-कभी. And afterwards, after doing this, it did not hang on with me at all. I mean, I'm feeling good to share it also. Earlier, I never used to share these things. Ki mere se, the mistake I made, how can I share it around? But I was so cool throughout the day. But I just really connected that sometimes when we read the things, we actually don't know they're actually getting into our heads and implying us, Us waqt, we just feel that we are reading. But I really could make out that this has really calmed me down. And so one habit, this so definitely, I think, is for a change, that perfection trap. So I think I have already started getting out of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raki. That is very empowering, actually. And
Yeah.
I think we do also hesitate to admit, "Kecha, theek hai, we made a mistake," and then we
Yes.
also hesitate in saying that, let me fix it also. So that's, I think, a great start. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
And Ananya, thank you so much. Ananya is sharing that, she's already gifted this book to her daughter as she starts her journey in the corporate world. And I think we're all here to support her anytime. Ananya, please don't let her ever hesitate. There is so much experience. Just look at this screen for a while, everyone. We all have some minimum, if I were to go minimum, 15 years of work experience at least. 15 into 30. Imagine the immense experience that is sitting right now on this call. That itself is like more than any corporate mentoring program can ever teach anyone. So let's use each other and to help each other. I think that's what I just want to close and then start with the reading. For today, we were to read chapter 18 and then we'll pick up 19 and 20. So we'll start with that. I will share my screen and let me know when you can see it. Please give me 1 minute. And in case you see anything like a game or something, I'm using my son's computer, so just let it be. Okay. So the title itself is Don't Do It Alone. We are not going to do it alone any which ways, but let's see what Sally has to say here. Anybody would want to read?
I can read, Garima.
Sure, Kaveri, please. Thank you.
Let me just minimize all our faces. It's difficult enough to change a habit, but it's almost impossible to change it alone. Why? Because as humans, we all have a built-in forgetter. When we find ourselves in a familiar or triggering situation, we tend to default to our habitual response. This is what operating on autopilot means. You don't have to think about what you're doing or put any effort into doing it. You just do it mindlessly, as you've always done it. You might remember afterwards that you were trying to respond in a new, more constructive way. But in a moment of tension, stress, distraction, confusion, resentment, or simple overwork, you revert to your comfort zone. Operating on autopilot feels efficient, and in many ways it is. If you had to consciously think through every turn of the wheel when you're driving, you'd never make it to work. If you had to decide where to put your foot every time you take a step, you'll falter when you try to walk. Default serves you superbly when you're doing tasks that require repetition, but the ease of defaulting makes changing habits hard. This is why coaching can be so useful. Coaches serve as disruptors, reminding you that you're trying to change and keeping your efforts on your front burner. A coach also acts as your partner as you seek to let go of habits that get in your way. Some of the women described in this book, what about the some of the women are, benefited from having coaches who offered feedback, disrupted familiar patterns, kept them on track, and held them accountable for new behaviors. But what if you don't have a coach? After all, coaches can be expensive, and great coaches can be very expensive. Your company probably hires coaches only for its most senior executives. So if you're not at that level, working with a coach may be out of reach. But it costs precisely nothing to enlist a colleague, friend, boss, or direct report in your effort to make positive behavioral changes. You just start by asking one person you trust for help in addressing a habit you would like to change. Involving someone else will disable your forgetter, make it harder to revert to autopilot, and make it harder for you to rationalize your resistance. Enlisting help. Say you decide that tackling the habit of pointlessly apologizing is a good place to start addressing your tendency to minimize. In this case, you could say something like this to a trusted colleague. Sharon, I'm wondering if you could help me out. I'm trying to be more effective in how I communicate, but I've realized I'm in the habit of apologizing, even when I've done nothing wrong. Sometimes I hear myself starting a simple observation with, I'm sorry, but most of the time I don't even notice. I'm wondering if you could let me know when you hear me say this, since we'll be working together a lot over the next month. If other people are around, you could just nod or raise your eyebrows to cue me. I'd be grateful since this habit isn't helping me be my best. Or say you decide to draw more attention to your achievements. Maybe like Ellen, the engineer in chapter 2, you've gotten feedback from your boss that you need to be more proactive in helping him reach his goals. You realize he thinks this is because you haven't kept him in the loop about what you're doing. Scroll down. So you ask a colleague who's too much, Garima, go up a little, one more sentence up. Yeah. You ask a colleague who also attends your boss's weekly meetings to help you out. You might say, Jim, since we sit next to each other in Jake's meetings, I'm wondering if I could enlist your help. I had a performance review last month, and one Garima, I need to move this.
Sorry,
And
my
one big takeaway.
backing up, so apologies.
Yeah, okay. And one big takeaway was that I'm not letting Jake know all the things I'm doing to make our project more visible in the market. I'm guessing I need to be more assertive in meetings. Could you watch over the next few weeks and let me know if there's any way I'm underselling my contributions? I'd really appreciate your input. Pulling others into your change efforts like this is not only more likely to make your new habits stick, it's also a great way to strengthen and deepen your relationships at work. Who doesn't like to be asked to share his opinions or observations? Who objects to being viewed as a trusted advisor whose insights and feedback are precisely what you need? The point is that enlisting the help of colleagues gives them a stake in your development. It demonstrates confidence in their judgment. It positions you as serious about your work. It may even inspire others to take similar action, which could help your whole team get better at what they do.
This is a long section. If anybody else would want to read as well, because now she's going to guide on some of the things that we should do. We have a lot of new members. Yes, Rajesh.
Okay, Rajeshwari, you want to read it? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, asking for help requires you to make yourself a bit vulnerable. This can feel awkward because the default in most workplaces is to try to telegraph that you are in total control and don't need anyone's help. Given this, here are a few tips drawn from our experience that can reduce the discomfort or confusion you may feel. Choose carefully. Ask for help from someone you trust, someone you have a good history with, and someone you know has a positive frame of mind. Since you will be asking the person to observe you and give you feedback about a behavior, you will also want to choose someone who sees you on a regular basis, either in meetings or as part of a team. Be specific. Generalized requests won't get you the information you're seeking. Vague queries such as, "Do you think I'm doing well?" will put the person you are trying to enlist on the spot and leave too much room for subjective response. Instead, say precisely what you want her to notice based on your start with one thing template. This could be apologizing, oversharing, deflecting praise, underselling your achievements, minimizing body language, offering too much information, or trying to please too much, whatever. Whatever behavior or habit you believe is getting in your way. Third one is be concise. Show the person you enlist that you value his time by making your request as brief as possible. Avoid sharing a lot of background, providing long introductions, or repeating the same thing in different ways. And remember that being the second requires you to prepare in advance. So know how you are going to phrase your request before you make it, and think through how you can concisely respond to likely questions. Fourth point, remember that disclosure is not the point. Don't belabor why you want to change a habit or share your analysis of the reasons you behave as you do. It doesn't matter all that much to others. Keep in mind that you are seeking to change a behavior that limits your potential, not rehash the past or sign people up for a therapy session. Fifth point, specify a time limit. Don't ask for an open-ended commitment. Instead, request the person you engage to observe you at a specific event or for a bounded period of time, such as during a scheduled meeting or over the next few weeks. How you ask for help is important, but it's not all that matters. You will also want to be intentional about how you respond to the feedback you invite. You don't want to be reactive or appear upset if you hear painful truths, as this will make the person you enlist regret having signed one. It's also good to have an advanced plan for responding, especially as feedback is notoriously difficult to hear. Nobody enjoys being propositioned by a colleague or friend with the dead phrase, "May I offer you some feedback?" You might smile, but you're probably gritting your teeth inside and holding yourself back from responding. No, you most certainly may not. That's so true, actually, many times. We will say, please give the feedback, and somewhere within us, I don't think so. I'm not 100% ready to receive all the feedback, which I've realized. Unsolicited feedback feels like criticism, no matter how helpfully the observations are phrased, which is why it makes most people defensive. But when you enlist someone to offer their thoughts, you're soliciting the feedback, so defensiveness is beside the point and self-defeating. Your task is to respond graciously and take what you need. Marshall has developed a coaching template that provides guidance for using feedback when trying to change behaviors. It has 4 components.
Thanks, Ajay. I think he's going to be talking about the listening, etc. So anybody else would want to pick up here?
Maybe listening, I will read, Garima, because that's one of the problem. I don't listen too much.
Okay, sure.
Okay, post that probably the other person can take up. Listening, thanking, following up, and advertising. Listening. Simply listening to the feedback you receive is the first step. So you want to be sure you know how to listen. You might think, of course I know how to listen. I'm a human being and I have ears. But really, listening to what someone else is saying requires discipline and focus. It also requires a measure of humility. It's easy to forget in the heat of conversation that listening and speaking are two entirely different activities, which means you can't listen at the same time you speak. And you can't listen if you're preparing to speak. Mentally rehearsing your response or champing at the bit to get your 2 cents in before the person you're supposed to be listening to is even finished. When you do this, you may feel as if you're listening, but your mind is actually engaged with your own thoughts. Even if you manage to hear the words the other person is saying, you will miss the nuances that are essential to real understanding. And there's another problem. The person you're allegedly listening to knows when your thoughts are elsewhere because, try as you might, your body language gives you away. This is true even when you think you are doing a good impression of someone who is listening, nodding your head and saying in all the right places. But think about it. As we noted in chapter 13, a small child can tell when your thoughts are elsewhere. So can your dog and your cat. Sentient creatures have a radar for detecting whether others are disengaged from what they are communicating. So how could a competent adult fail to notice? Frances Hespelman is one of the most skilled listeners we know. She practices listening as if it were an art form and is able to serenely take in information that might be upsetting or disturbing. She can do this because she understands that listening is always a two-step process. There's the part where you listen to what the other person has to say, and then there's the part where you respond. They do not overlap. Frances cites the late great Peter Drucker, her mentor and friend, as the best listener she ever knew. People he worked with hung on his every word. Yet he made it a practice to listen intently and fully before opening his mouth. In a meeting, he would ask everyone for an opinion before he offered his. Peter says Francis always went last. He wanted to take the temperature of what others were saying so he could gather all the information available. And he wanted time to formulate a thoughtful response. How many leaders have you seen do this? In most situations, the opposite happens. The most senior person present tries to assert dominance by being the first to respond, often cutting others off in the process. The message this sends is clear. I am more important than you, or so I get to speak first. What I have to say is what really matters. Of course, the leader has every right to go first, but what is typically the result? Once the leader speaks, everyone else shuts down because nobody wants to contradict the most senior person. The upshot is that everyone falls into line without even expressing an opinion or sharing what might be vital information. This is the reason so many meetings feel pointless. They simply end up confirming the leader's already held beliefs. By contrast, a leader who gives others the chance to speak first ends up surfacing new facts, unexpected perspectives, and fresh points of view. So let's return to the situation where you have enlisted a colleague to observe a behavior you are trying to change. When the time comes for you to hear her observations, you want to do nothing but listen, which means keeping your ears open and your mouth shut. After all, you asked for her thought, so there is no reason to offer yours or explain or defend yourself. Even if you don't like what she's saying, even if it feels hurtful, even if you think she misinterpreted your concerns or missed the point, You want to respond to the feedback you solicited by listening to every word.
Thank you, Raji. I agree with this, I mean, there have been so many meetings and we just say that, what, there's no point of doing meetings because we have to do what you are going to ask us to do. So just let us know what you want. I so agree. But my only problem is that, how to find that right person becomes difficult. Somebody who will not abuse that mentorship relationship, and I'm using the word abuse because it happens so often in the corporate world. So I think that's really tricky. Anybody has any thoughts?
I actually have a completely different point of view, a very good experience to share.
Please.
And very briefly, that I worked at, for somebody else for this whole cultural museum thing. There was a lot of things with the person who was the boss woman of the entire organization. She had started this like 30 years before, so she wanted to hold all the reins. She had a problem with delegating for sure. And so she was micromanaging, and she used to have these weekly meetings that went on forever. And I used to think, oh God, but one thing, hats off to her, is that she could take criticism. It didn't matter that she was the boss, and it didn't matter whether it came from the watchman or it came from someone who was working for her or a team leader or anybody. If someone said, hey, listen, you don't know what you're talking about, I know my department better, she will say, so tell me. The fact that you were allowed to criticize her, that you were allowed to tell the leader, you don't know, I am telling you what is going on here, and she will shut up and listen and then give her feedback, was a huge point, which is why a lot of people stayed with the organization. The fact that the leader's beard was not gospel, the leader was willing to take that, okay, I am wrong. But there were a whole lot of other problems with her micromanaging, but that's a different issue. Just the fact that you were able to disagree with the leader makes a huge difference.
Agreed. Garima, just to add to your point, one from my experience, sometimes, even without trying, we make a decision, maybe that person may not be the way what I want, right? There is somewhere that perfection kapoot where we are expecting, so the expectation we have with others many a times put us down. Just to give an example, 2 months back, I got a new boss. Okay, so he has been hired from a CTO. He has a well-set goal and all of that. And a lot of things are being pushed on official front, a lot of things being pushed on me. At the same time, my team members left and I'm still revamping a team. And as a single man, I'm running a lot of shows. So it became very difficult. 2 weeks back, I kind of reached a stage where, my brain started freezing for a few hours. I don't know what's happening kind of mode. And, then I was in a debate mode. Now, what should I do? My boss is a new person. If I go and explain, will he understand? He is, he has set goals. He has to ensure he needs to. I have to take 4-5 days off. I realize what's going on with me. I want to take break for 4-5 days, recover and come back. But I need to tell him this, right? Initially, I thought maybe he won't understand. He's so new. He don't even know me. What will he think? He has a lot of expectation about me. What will he think if I say I'm going through this? All of that, I thought. Then I thought, if I need to come out of this situation, I have to say, let me try. I don't know who he is. Let me not make assumption about him. I had an one-on-one and I told him, this is exactly my challenge. I want to come out of comfort zone and work, but I don't want to be in a zone that I'm always in upside down, that I'm not able to stand, right? Or right now, I'm going through challenges. I need 4-5 days break. Let me recover and come back and start doing. He listened to that entire 15-20 minutes what I was speaking. He didn't even interrupt me. He let me speak. Then he told at the end of it, I respect what you're telling. You please take off and you feel better, come back and work. That's all he told. But I thought he will do this, he will do that, etc. and all. Then 4-5 days I took leave and came back and started working. And when next one-on-one, he asked first thing, are you feeling better or you still need some more time off kind of thing? I told I am better. I'm started doing it. That time I was really thankful, and I realized that he listened to entire conversation. It was not like he was acting. And this is a guy, he's sitting in US, right? He's not even face to face with me, and he has never met me, but still he was listening. So that is when I realized, one is his listening skills. I appreciated it a lot. Second thing is, sometimes we make an assumption about another person and not do what we want to do, and we think they are going to do this way only. So those are two learnings for me then from that situation. So to be very frank, last 1 month has been a lot of learnings for me in all directions, and picking this book at the same time, it's like universal guidance coming from me in all directions that you are on the right track. This is a challenging mode. It's okay. Stay on. You will come out of it. That's the message I'm receiving, and I'm full on going to change it. That's what I know. So all the wrong assumptions I used to make, perfection trap, all those things, I'm 100% sure I'm going to get over all those things so that I can come out of this challenge and become a better version of myself.
That's so beautiful, Raji. Thank you so much for saying this, and congratulations on a new start altogether. And universe is conspiring. Yes, I completely agree. Universe wants you to give yourself a reset, reboot
Exactly.
opportunity. So great to hear that.
Thank you.
So we have some time. We'll start with the second thing that he's talking about, which I think is, sorry, like I said, I don't understand my
May I
system.
also add something?
Yes, please.
Garima?
Please.
Yeah. So this chapter resonated with me quite a bit with regards to coaching, because that's one of the things I did some time back. I was in a very bad space. So I actually, I got a life coach. I started working with a life coach. And I realized it's quite different from mentorship. Because in mentorship, usually your mentor, they offer you specific guidance and things like that. But coaching is slightly different. I basically had to find a lot of the solutions by myself, but it really does make a difference whether your coach sort of resonates with you, right? And one thing that I liked about working with this particular coach is that she provided a framework within which I could find answers. And she did not really give me any specific advice or guidance. It kind of also makes you develop these tools within yourself to find solutions when you're like in a very difficult situation. And it can apply to both the professional and the personal. But overall, I found that both these two things are quite interlinked. But definitely choice of coach matters. Like, can you relate to that person's particular style? And I got a little lucky that I interacted with this person in a very different setup. And then later on, because we had a certain rapport, I felt I could work with her very well. So it was definitely a very transformative experience. So if anybody is looking to, get something like that, it definitely can work, but it is different from mentorship for sure. So just wanted to share that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Meryl. And, I agree. One, coach, mentor, trainer, I think we often mix these up. They are very, very different roles. And then oftentimes coach and mentor is interused, which is also wrong. I realized it very late, but very true. And congrats on a great start once again. And we will,
Thanks.
much needed. So if you think you can share some of your learnings with us, please do. But for the rest of the ladies, don't hesitate. I think the point is, don't hesitate asking for help. But my hesitation always is that, am I identifying the right person? I don't know. I think that's the overthinking brain that comes into, play. We'll move on. The next component Marshall talks about is thanking. Anybody would want to read? Sure, Rajni, please. Thank you.
thanking. And what do you do when the other person has finished speaking? You don't contradict, but you don't affirm either. You don't offer your own opinion or rush to share an action plan. You simply say thank you. Getting in the habit of thanking others is one of the most effective things you can do as you seek to rise. Like listening, thanking will help you at every stage of your career. That is because thank you works in almost any situation. It creates closure on different conversations. It stops the cycle of tit for tat. It's disarming. Even people who are defensive soften when they are thanked. It makes others feel good and so increases the sum of happiness in the world. It demonstrates humility, showing you to be right-sized. Nobody can argue with it or push back. Marshall advises all his clients to be radical fundamentalists when it comes to thanking, to be students and practitioners of gratitude and seek out opportunities to genuinely express it, to find ways to give themselves an A+ in gratitude. He does this because years ago he had the opportunity to experience the power of gratitude firsthand. Flying from Santa Barbara to San Francisco some years ago, he and his fellow passengers were informed by the crew that their landing gear had malfunctioned and they should prepare themselves for a crash. During these frightening moments, Marshall asked himself what he most regretted in his life. The answer came clearly. He regretted not thanking all the people who had helped him or otherwise gone out of their way to be good to him. He resolved that if he lived, he would seek out every one of those people and thank them. The plane landed safely, and when he got to his hotel, Marshall immediately sat down and began writing sincere notes of appreciation to people who had helped him in his life, many of whom he hadn't been in touch with or even thought about for years. He continued to do this in the following months. His notes made the people who received them feel good, and writing them made him feel wonderful. The experience made him decide never to miss a chance to say thank you and to cultivate gratitude as a personal signature, a way of being in the world, and ever since is encouraged, that's putting in mildly, his clients to do the same. Next one was following up. Marshall
Should we just take a moment maybe to talk about gratitude that Marshall is suggesting? Anybody ever done that in the past? Sending a thank you note?
Yeah. Thanking has not been my problem, but I feel like using thank you in order to acknowledge what I've heard rather than having to immediately jump in and agree or disagree. I think I should make use of that. That is something I can really learn. Saying thank you, I'm very happy to. I keep thanking people, but this is an extremely good lesson.
Yes, Prema.
It's very funny. Kids are taught to say thank you from the very initial stage, right? But I used to feel really, really, it used to be very awkward for me to say thank you, especially to the closed ones, right? So bahar ke logon ke liye to it's easy. If stranger helped me something, thank you. So it was anyways difficult for me. I have gotten used to saying thank you only after I got married, because my husband is like such a person that he will say thank you 10 times, 20 times a day. And when he doesn't hear from me, then he was like kind of really waiting to listen at thank you, right? So that this is one. And now I'm used to, right? I also say thank you many a times at home. Doesn't matter whether it's my siblings or anybody, right? And this is one thing. And another thing really thanking the other person and really acknowledging. My auntie, whenever I used to go to her place and then come back, we used to have fun moments or whatever work for whatever reason. She used to write a thank you note and message me, right? So thank you. It is so lovely. Your presence made me this. We did a good job. You came and whatnot, right? So she used to acknowledge and thank. So that's how. So then that made me more conscious and push me to think more. Why this, right? And there is culture outside India that people write like this. So the function is over, next day people receive thank you note and all. That's what I've seen in some movies and all also. So that made me realize why she's doing so. And I have cultivated this, and now I really practice this. That, wherever I go, enjoy or even not enjoy, but at least the work they have done, the time they have spent. So I really acknowledge and then write a thank you. And it is like kind of natural now. So at times, if I don't enjoy, then I really, it's difficult. It doesn't come there like that, right? So just saying thank you is, for me nowadays, it's like a little bit meaningless, right? So really, why am I thanking others, right? So I really look for that, and I write at least one line and then thank the other person. That's what I have developed and I have learned in my life. Yep, thank you.
I think, yeah, we all learn from it. And as you rightly mentioned, we teach kids to say thank you for the smallest things. And it is so difficult as we grow old to say thank you. Rajni, you want to add something to this, please? Rajni, do you want to raise, I see your hand raised.
I think that was previously when
I think in the context of finding a mentor and in the corporate world, I don't know, some of you may agree, but it is very difficult to say thank you to the nastiest person, right? Especially when you're getting the annual appraisals or, the annual mentoring sessions or, whatever the 6 monthly cycle or whatever it is, it's very difficult. But then after a while, I was reading the book in the last 2 months, there's this guy, and I'm going to be very honest with the community, I just don't like him. And I think I find him very insecure. But then I realized that, on one of the calls, I genuinely said, thank you so much for highlighting this. I am going to work on it. And he had nothing to respond to it. And that's when I realized that, what, even the nastiest of the debate discussion can be shut down by a simple thank you. And suddenly I felt empowered again, that, I have taken my power back rather than him trying to continuously show that, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. So I think I'm going to be more conscious on thank yous, at least in the in office, because we still unfortunately have 70 to 30 ratio of males to females. So you still have to live with that, right? Can't change that immediately. We have 4 minutes left. Anybody would want to add any thoughts here? But before we do, before we close, I just want to repeat a couple of things. We have our Instagram channel. Kaveri has published it. Please go follow it. Discuss the book on the channel. Invite your friends to follow us on Instagram as well. We have uploaded up our schedule. We have uploaded our guidelines there. Please read through and invite more of your friends, sisters, daughters, nieces as well. The second thing is we are going to be wrapping this book next Sunday. So let's please read the rest of the pages, which is chapter 19 and 20 on our own. Next Sunday, we are going to be taking the initial 20 minutes to recap the book. So come up with your stories or anything that you want to add to it. And then probably we will start with the new book, for which once again, I'm very, very excited. It is again a very, very good book. Much looking forward to it. Hope it helps all of us. So that's going to be the schedule for the coming Sunday.
Don't we take up the 3 habits? We wrap up the book and take up the 3 habits, I thought. Is that it?
So we'll publish
Follow up on the habits.
We'll publish a very simple form, and so that we all can just capture our habits. We'll also try and give you access so that you can view it, and we'll keep it floating. We'll keep a day where we discuss that log and see where we are, because otherwise, I know we read the book, we keep it in the shelf, we want to go back to it, but we have to implement it this year, right? This year is all about change, so let's go ahead and do that. Thank you so much, Raji. I think because of members like yourself and others, I think the community is thriving. Thank you so very much. And thanks, Meryl. Thank you, Vyumi. Anybody else would want to add anything? Hira, Kaveri, or anyone? And
Yes,
just
please, everyone, follow the Instagram handle. I'm posting it once more in the chat. Yeah.
Thanks, Kaveri. One more thing, there was a Google form in Kaveri. I think we'll just share that again. In case you have not given your email ID, then please just update your email ID so that we can give you readable access to the book, at least, that we're going to be starting. The idea is that you can go read the book, along with us online. And we can only give you that access if we have your email ID. So go ahead and, do ensure. But starting the next book, we will try and go ahead and give you that access.
Yeah, even if you have already filled in your name and phone number, if it was at a time before the form added the email, you can go back and edit your response, which means you can add your email address in it. So we need the email address in order to give you access to the thing. If you haven't filled the form at all, please do. That is, of course, first. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please read 19 and 20 yourself. Next week, first 20 minutes, we talk about our action log, what we have to work on, and then we start a new book. And I wish everybody a very warm rest of the week. And for people who are enjoying in 25-degree, I envy you, but nonetheless, we love you too. So see you guys next Sunday.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
We don't know who those people are.
Yeah, we don't know. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great weekend ahead.